The buzz is awesome. Obviously, a hot topic this morning, cybersecurity. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Bay Path University. I am Carol Leary, the proud president of Bay Path University, and welcome to our second annual CyberSecurity Summit. How many of you were here last year for the first annual? I love it. You came back. You're in for a treat. I'm delighted to welcome our guests not only here in the audience this morning, but I'd like to give a shout out to over 90 people who are listening in from across the country and around the world. I also want to recognize someone special who's online listening to us right now, the former commander of New Scotland Yard, who was our speaker for the first annual CyberSecurity Summit last year, Robert Milton. Hi, Bob. See you soon in London. Let's give him a round of applause for coming across. He came across the pond to be our speaker last year. So, as I look out at the audience, it is obvious that cybersecurity is an important topic on all of our minds, and it should be. We have many organizations, and probably too many to indicate this morning in our audience, but I really appreciate the fact that you have come to learn from an expert about cybersecurity. And I hope you've had a chance to connect with each other, because in many ways, these hot topic breakfasts for Bay Path are ways for you to meet and greet people in your industry and to learn from each other. We do programs like this every year. In a couple of weeks, in October, we're going to be very honored to have with us Brenna Berman, who is the Commissioner and Chief Information Officer for the City of Chicago. And she will be here on October 17th. The invitation is open to all of you, and this is part of our entrepreneurial and innovative lecture series that we do annually every fall. We obviously live in a world that is constantly changing, and we always say at Bay Path University that we are educating our students for a constantly changing world. And in our global community, the importance of cybersecurity cannot be underestimated. Today's speaker, Jen Lesser-Henley, and I really enjoyed my pre-breakfast conversation with her, and know that she uses a lot of sugar in her coffee. She is our Director of Operations at Facebook, and obviously that's a name we all know. But she is someone who truly knows the importance of protecting our data, our information, and our personal profiles. But before we move to the summit, you know that it is always appropriate to thank the people that bring these incredible speaking engagements to Bay Path and to you. So if you'll allow me, I'd like to thank those individuals. We have many people in our region and out of our region here today. I'd like to start by thanking, and I just met him personally, Andrew Stein, the Vice President of Centricate, our platinum level sponsor. Andrew, please stand, and let us give you a round of applause. Centricate is also partnering with us to offer our undergraduate students in our cybersecurity major access to a cutting-edge virtual digital forensic laboratory to complete comprehensive digital forensic training. So Andrew, we're thrilled to have you not only as our platinum sponsor, but also the opportunity you're offering to our students. We have Mark Aiello, the president, and Heather Howie, the Vice President of Staffing from Cyber 360 Solutions. Would you please stand? Are you here today? Nope, they haven't arrived yet. And Jackie Fallon, the President of FIT Solutions. And are they here? Is Jackie here? There she is, right in the back. Thank you, Jackie. And they will be here working with our students in a career exploration event coordinated by Ann Lombardi-Butt, our Executive Director of Employer Relations here at Bay Path, immediately after the seminar. These two organizations are interviewing about 18 current students and alumni for positions within cybersecurity. So I think you're going to be seeing Bay Path's name in every place in our nation when it comes to cybersecurity. And I'd also like to do a shout out and a special thank you to Eric Parizzo, Executive Editor for Tech Target's Security Media Group, who was essential in connecting us with Jen Lesser-Henley. And I don't know if Eric is here today. Eric, there you are. I didn't have a chance to meet you. Pleasure to meet you, Eric. An event like this would not be possible without the helping hands of many people. So let me thank our team led by Dr. Melissa Morris-Olson, our Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. Melissa, thank you very much. Dr. Tom Loper, our Associate Provost and Dean of the School of Arts, Sciences, and Management. Tom has been, there he is in the back, standing up. Thank you, Tom. You'll hear a little bit more from this individual later. Dr. Larry Snyder, our Program Director for the MS in Cybersecurity Management. And you'll see Larry coming right up. Ann Canton, the Administrative Assistant in Academic Affairs. Justin Letelier, Director of User Support. Kathy Robleski, our Director of Communications. And Robin Rawson-Sicard, our Web Communications Coordinator. Thank you all on behalf of Bay Path. And last but not least, I want to thank Facebook, Jen, because Facebook has been responsible for, A, allowing Jen to leave her critical post to travel here and be with us, but more importantly, they have underwritten every expense of this trip to have Jen here because they feel so deeply that this is a topic we all need to hear, and obviously, they want to go to colleges and universities like Bay Path to hire the very best in cybersecurity. So let's thank Facebook for their support. And I can't pass up an opportunity to talk a little bit about what's been happening at Bay Path. And I'll try to do this very quickly, but you know that if one of you or 10 of you leave this room with something new about Bay Path, I've done my job as the president, correct? So try to take at least one nugget of information and spread it to 10 people, and then the word gets out about Bay Path University. This is a very historic year for us, 2014. We have evolved into Bay Path University. And as you know, just 2 weeks ago, the sign in the front lawn said Bay Path College. We are actually a university as of the 1st of July. We are a very complex organization now, and I am just thrilled to tell you that all of us at Bay Path are proud of our past and really excited about our future as a university. This is one of those statements that every college president wants to be able to say, and I'll say it loudly. We are the first women's university in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And when you think, yes, let's give that a round of applause. We are in great company. Obviously, we've got Wellesley College and Simmons College and Smith College and Mount Holyoke College and Bay Path University. And we are not just on ground, but we are obviously online. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But we are very complex, as I said. We literally have 6 campuses. We're here in Long Meadow. We are in downtown Springfield, and I'll share a little bit about why we're in downtown Springfield in a moment. We are in Sturbridge. We are in Burlington. We are building a new building, which I'll share with you in a moment, in East Long Meadow, and we are all over the world with our online programs. So we are definitely complex, and we have 19 graduate programs. So remember that. I'm sure if you have an interest or an expertise and you want to learn more, Bay Path can partner with you in that. Last November, we broke ground for a huge health sciences building in East Long Meadow. If you drive by the corner of Denslow and Shaker Road, you'll see this beautiful building going up, 57,000 square feet devoted to health science. Why? Because our occupational therapy program at the master's level and our physician assistant program at the master's level are just growing incredibly. So we have to move them off this campus, and they will be in one of the most cutting-edge, state-of-the-art health sciences buildings in the entire Commonwealth, and I would venture to say the Northeast. So visit us there someday. There's lots of beautiful open space where we might even have one of these lectures in the future. When we talk about enrollment too, obviously growth is part of Bay Path's past and present and future. We are now at 2,400 students and growing every day. In fact, the Chronicle of Higher Education, just in their latest issue, has Bay Path listed as one of the fastest growing undergraduate institutions and master's institutions in our country. In fact, we're ranked 8th, not bad for 3,400 colleges and universities. So that says something about what's happening here in this beautiful little town of Longmeadow. And finally, in a very bold move, we did move to Springfield to accommodate the growth of our new American Women's College online. We are, at Bay Path University, the very first fully online, exclusively for women, baccalaureate degree granting university in the world. We offer total baccalaureate degrees online exclusively for women, which is our undergraduate mission. So when you think that we can say that, what I'd like to do is thank the incredibly talented staff and faculty who are working on that program. So visit us at 1350 Main Street. We're on the 7th floor, and I probably am the only college president walking the streets of Springfield 2 days of every week. So now on to what you're here for. It really is my pleasure to introduce one of our faculty members, and as I said, the director of our cybersecurity program, because when we brought Dr. Larry Snyder to Bay Path, we knew we had a gem. This is somebody who feels deeply about his field, but he is also extremely knowledgeable. He has two decades of experience in law enforcement, fraud, and auditing with the U.S. Army and a variety of industries, and 10 years as a pioneer of cybersecurity education. His background also includes positions in major United States banks, and there are many banks in this, bank representatives in this audience today, as a manager of fraud operations and senior information systems auditor. Professor Snyder was instrumental in developing the cybersecurity program for the State University of New York's Herkimer County Community College, one of the first cybercrime programs in New York State. He has been the driving force in the development and launching of our cybersecurity program, both at the graduate and undergraduate level. He is a go-to person for the media. He is constantly cited in newspapers and is on television across New England on a variety of subjects, but obviously cybersecurity that is dear to him. I'd like you to visit graduate.baypath.edu for a sampling of his interviews and editorials. So, my ad lib moment. Larry, just know we are very proud that you decided to bring your expertise to Bay Path University. And we know, most importantly, that the students you are teaching will do very well in our world with the education you provide. Dr. Larry Snyder.
Good morning, and thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Let me start again by welcoming everybody to the second annual Cybersecurity Summit here at Bay Path University. As President Leary mentioned, we have a large contingency of people watching the summit online this year, much more than we expected. But I want to mention one group in particular that I saw on the list yesterday, and I reached out to the individual that registered them. Today we have 25 students from South Windsor High School watching us as part of their forensic science class. And that's just fantastic to me. So for those watching online in the class at South Windsor, if you want to tweet in any questions. You can use the hashtag BPU at CyberSecurity, and that's being manned, and we'll address those questions later. So, but I think that's fantastic, because one of the things that I'm going to talk to you just briefly about today is this pipeline of cybersecurity professionals that we're trying to build here. You know, we can address the undergraduate and the graduate, but we're going to have to work on public school education and the K through 12 corridor that we need in order to foster interest in the technology field, the STEM field. And unfortunately, you know, just due to the way the structure of public education is, a lot of the IT stuff is being cut from public education. And to have a school that's interested enough to take time out of their busy schedule to watch us here and maybe learn something, and who knows, we might see some of them at some point in the next few years here on the campus, is important to me, because you know, that's what we really need to do, is build that new pipeline. I was told by Andrew Stein, I was talking to him earlier, and he said that he had just read or been part of a conversation where there's something along the lines of 30,000 unfilled cybersecurity professional jobs, and right now, that's a lot. And in a conversation that I was having with an interview, news, they asked why we are seeing such a large number of these events, and I would say, and I said, that we're very understaffed. If we have 30,000 vacancies in the country, organizations can only do so much. Human resource is finite. We can only work so many hours a day. We can only work so many days a year, and eventually the ship is going to be steering itself for a little while. So I think that's fantastic. As you know, a little over a year ago, we launched the cybersecurity management program here at Bay Path University, and at the time we held the summit on Columbus Day, the Friday before Columbus Day, we had 5 people enrolled in the program. But due to the great work from Diane Rinaldi and her staff in admissions, they were able to, by the time the class started a couple weeks later, get us 12 students. Many of them are here today in that area right over there. Some of them traveled quite a long ways to come here, and it's fantastic. Welcome. Glad to see them. It's not often when you teach online that you actually get to see your students, so it's interesting and to see them, and it was hopefully I get some time to talk to them in a little bit. In 1 year's time, the master's program is nearly doubled in size, so that's good for everybody, especially me. And we continue to welcome new students every day. Diana is constantly working new applications and sending out emails, and she's just, if anyone, I owe a debt of gratitude to the admissions department, who's way back there, and they should stand up and take some applause, because their hard work is what puts people in the classroom. In a couple of months, we'll have our first graduating class of the master's program. I think some of them are here today as well. I think I have 3 students who are getting ready to graduate or complete the coursework in October, so that's fantastic, and that's a milestone that we've been waiting. Well, we only had to wait just a little over a year, so that's good, and congratulations, and I hope to see you at the ceremony next May. Not being an organization that rests on our laurels, shortly after I came here, Associate Provost Dr. Tom Loper and myself envisioned, again, creating that cybersecurity pipeline where we could do more than just the master's program. So we moved from concept to creation, and we launched the undergraduate degree program in cybersecurity for traditional students. That was approved in October. We ran a test class, and many of my colleagues, Liz Deneen in particular, worked very hard to get me students, and we had 18 people that registered for that first class, and didn't scare them off. I didn't discourage them. We actually had some that had interest in claiming it as maybe a second major or a minor, so that was a win for us. And then this past semester, we launched our first year class of incoming students in the cybersecurity degree program for traditional students or undergraduate students. So that's great. It's up and running, and we were able to fill up a couple of classes this time. We have 3 classes that we're running. One in particular, 2 in particular, are focusing on digital forensics in coordination with Centricate, which has just been a phenomenal relationship, and flying out from Utah on a whim just to stop by. He said he's going to go to Boston and watch a Boston Red Sox game as well. So, but that's fantastic. Everything's going well, but that wasn't enough. So I started working with Dr. Vanna Nespor. I hadn't seen her here today. I think she's probably here with the American Women's College, and we launched the undergraduate degree program in an all-online capacity with them this fall. They're starting to take applications, and in January, we'll be offering our first digital forensics classes in an all-online format, one of the first women's colleges to do that as well. So we're making a lot of firsts. We had a first undergraduate program for women at an all-women's college, and then pushing it out online, which is it's just fantastic opportunity for everybody, and it really does complete that pipeline for us at the higher ed level. But now we have to turn our attention elsewhere, and just so that you're aware that public schools, that's where we're going, and I think we need to get the support of many of the organizations here that I talk to that just are strapped for people. We have to get interest much earlier than we are. So, that being said, things are going well here. We started talking about the second summit, Tom and I did, and we were looking for something that would be different and would really bring home what our program is here. When we built our program, we built it on the premise that things have to change in the field of cybersecurity. The way that we have been doing things was not working. We needed to develop leaders in the field that were much more responsive. What we were looking for is that new type of cyber leader, that type that very diverse background. The ability to understand technology, but also understand that human beings are just as critical in this solving this issue, and it's a big issue that we have. So we started looking around, and then by happenstance, I saw Jennifer's video that she did when she was in Germany, a quick interview, I think, at a conference, and I said, this is probably the person that we want. And then Tom said, well, do we know her? And I said, not really. So we started looking around, and I should thank LinkedIn, because I went to LinkedIn and I found her profile, and I started looking through who she knew, and I started looking through who I knew, and I happened to find Eric, who was the conduit to getting us in touch with her. Our guest, our keynote speaker, has taken this concept of this humanistic side, this changing the game in cybersecurity to a level that really is exactly what we were talking about when we started talking about the concepts of our program. As the director of cybersecurity or of security operations at Facebook, she's responsible for the organizational management, the roadmap, and the budget of Facebook's security team, along with program management. So, she has a very diverse background. She calls herself, or she labels herself, a jack of all trades. She also coordinates awareness campaigns, most notably the popular Hacktober, event, which is part of the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month of October. Prior to Facebook, Jennifer was the chief of staff for the CISO of PayPal. She's a graduate of St. Mary's College in California, where she received a bachelor's degree in communications, which is really what we're talking about, that diverse background that has the ability to think outside of the technology box, to bring in other things that you just don't typically see. She holds a PMP certification, which is the most important industry-recognized certification in project management, or for project managers. It has over 15 years of industry-leading experience. So if you could help me welcome Jennifer to the stand, it would be great. Thank you very much, and welcome.
Well, thank you so much. I am just absolutely thrilled to be out here. When Larry had reached out to me initially, one of the things that really spoke to me is about the mission of BayPath. And being a woman in this field, obviously increasing diversity and increasing female participation in the field is incredibly important to me. So I am absolutely thrilled to be here, and I can tell you I could not have asked for a warmer welcome from all of you. So thank you so very much. We're just waiting a second. Okay, excellent. So as you heard, my name is Jen Henley, and I am the Director of Security Operations at Facebook, where I have been for the past 3.5 years. And what I really want to talk to you about today is changing the game, and what changing the game means in the security space, and how each and every one of you no matter whether you're a student, no matter whether you're faculty, no matter whether you're industry or just someone who's interested in this field, can play a role in doing so. So I want to give you a little bit more introduction on me, because I think talking about my background and the road that's brought me here is important for everyone to have some context. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the current state of the industry and some of the challenges that we specifically face at Facebook related to those. And then I really want to delve into what changing the game means and give you some new concepts to think about in terms of how we all do that. I'll wrap up at the end, and then we're going to have some time for Q&A, I understand as well, which I am looking forward to. So without further ado, who am I? The best way to describe my journey to where I am right now is a long and winding road. And I want to go back to my childhood because I had two loves growing up: sports and math. I loved math. And what I loved about sports was the stats and the analytics and the strategy that went into it. I loved that I was able to sit with my dad and we could talk about things and numbers and how those fit into the grand concept of these great games and the competition that came out of it. When I was in elementary school, and even when I was in high school, I didn't have much exposure to computers. And what I always joke about is that my only exposure to computers in elementary school was once a month when my entire class got to go to the computer lab, which consisted of 3 or 4 incredibly old Macs, and we got to play Oregon Trail. That was all I had to computers. And in fact, I didn't get my first email address until I went away to college. And when I went to college, we didn't even have university domains available to us. I had an AOL email address, and I can still hear that dial-up modem in my sleep sometimes. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Because through my entire youth, I had 2 parents who encouraged me and supported my love of math. They fostered it. Both of my parents have science backgrounds, so they always encouraged it. They talked to me about it. They drove me to math camp. They drove me to science camp. They allowed me this exposure to this wonderful field. So flash forward, I'm getting ready to go to college, and I'm looking at universities, and what do I decide to major in? I decide I'm going to go to a liberal arts school, and I'm going to major in communications. That's what I decided to do, because what did I decide at that point in time? I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. Erin Andrews, I think, has the most amazing job on the planet. And I went to college, and I realized this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted to go into communications. But when I got there, I had 2 wonderful female professors who got me to start looking at how can I actually take this love of communications and blend this with my love of math? Because even though I was majoring in liberal arts, I also was still a calculus tutor in college. And they got me to start to look at things and think about things differently. So I ended up graduating with a major in interpersonal organizational communications. And I had a minor in business administration. And my first job out of college was with Accenture back when it was still Anderson Consulting. So pre-Enron debacle. I learned to program at Anderson. In a 10-week intensive boot camp, I learned to program in C++, and I loved it. I loved it because it was problems, and they needed to be solved, and I had to figure out how to get all those pieces together. I also, on the flip side, realized I hated testing. I hated writing test plans. I hated writing test results. It was the worst thing in the world to me. So I started to feel I was getting my groove. I knew what I wanted to do. So the first place I was staffed after I joined Andersen was at Sun Microsystems. And they were going through a huge conversion on their manufacturing and financial systems. And I was on a team that was triaging first-level bugs that came in when they moved to an Oracle financial system. And I realized that everything I had learned at Andersen and all the skills I had developed, as I sat in that windowless room with 12 people a day, I realized I hated what I was doing because I wasn't getting to interact with people. And I didn't feel like I was solving problems. I had this amazing manager who I had worked with at Sun Microsystems. And she approached me one day and said, "Come work for us. I've got a better job for you. I've got something that's going to better utilize your skills. Come work with us." So I left Andersen and I went to Sun. And that's where I got my first taste of project management, only I didn't know that's what it was. The year was 1999, and we were getting ready for 2000. And everyone probably can remember Y2K and the terror over Y2K. My job was to coordinate our Y2K health check for the division I was in at Sun. I got to meet with different departments. I didn't have to do their testing plans, but I had to ensure they had testing plans. I had to make sure they had thought through the various issues that could happen. And I had to make sure that they were all talking to each other. And I loved it. I finally felt this is what I was meant to do. This is what I want to be doing. Bringing people together, talking about this, working through the issues. I love this. Now, at this point in time in the Silicon Valley, we were booming. There were job opportunities everywhere. And at that point in time, I got a call from a friend of mine who was working at a startup and said, "Hey, I have no idea what you do, but I think we have a job opening that I think you might be qualified for." And it was a project management job. And I went over and I talked to the CTO there and I talked to the CEO there, and they offered to double my salary, and I said, "Where do I sign?" And I went to this startup and I taught myself what project management was. I had no idea there was this entire discipline that was built around this. Because at that point in time, every company around us in Silicon Valley was looking for project managers. I felt I was lucky I received the role I did. Because at that point in time, if you could breathe and you could speak, they would hire you as a project manager, because that's how desperate they were looking for people. But I tell anyone who asks me, luck gets your foot in the door, luck doesn't keep you in the door. That's your own work and your own drive and the own value you provide. I stayed at that startup for 4 years. Not only did I improve and enhance and learn all of the wonderful skills I did about what it meant to be a project manager, I also got my first taste of operations management. And I also got my first taste of learning what it was like to manage a technical team. The startup I worked for went under, and I ended up at eBay. When I went to eBay, I started as a project manager, and one of the first projects I was assigned was in the security space. And I've never looked back. The minute I worked on a security project, I knew I had found the industry, and I knew I had found the space that I wanted to make a long-term career in. I loved it. And what I loved was at the heart of what they were doing was protection. They were trying to protect the network. Then I got to work on a project where we were trying to protect our employees. Then I got to see all of the compliance efforts that were in place to try and protect the millions of people who use eBay. And I loved it. So I start out as a project manager, and I always joke that they brought me in to provide some adult supervision to what was going on. The team was small and scrappy. They would go into meetings for headcount planning and literally pull sticky notes out of their pockets and ask the person next to them, what was that project we couldn't do that we said if we had 2 more people we would be able to? So they asked me, can you come in and can you help us get organized? And the CISO at eBay at that time took a chance on me because everybody was asking him, you have 1 head left to fill this year. Why are you bringing in this person? Why aren't you bringing in someone who has more technical skill or is more focused on IDS or identity management? Why this person? He said, because this is what we're missing right now, and I'll stand by my decision. Well, for me, it was obviously the right decision. And I hope it was for him as well. But it took me about 6 months to get him whipped into shape. And then I started to get bored. But what I realized is there was so much more in the security field that I could start to dig into. I mean, the breadth and the vast expansiveness of what this field means and what it covers, I had so much to learn. So I started getting involved in policies, and I started getting involved in training and awareness, and then I started getting involved in compliance, and then I started getting involved in governance. And all of a sudden, I looked around me, and I had 4 different functions reporting to me, and I kind of looked back and said, wait, how did I get here? What am I doing? I left eBay to go to KPMG. And why I decided to go to KPMG was they needed somebody who was going to lead their West Coast Center of Excellence to talk about governance and risk and compliance, GRC. And the topic was really starting to develop legs and make traction in the industry. And I went to KPMG. And it was great because I got to talk to people. And I got to go out to events like this and mix with different people and network and understand the issues people were seeing. But what started to eat after me at not too long was I didn't really like just telling people what they were doing wrong. I wanted to fix what people were doing wrong. And I wanted to see that end result of driving that project from start to completion. The CISO at PayPal called me not long after I joined KPMG. It was about a year later. And he said, I need you on my team and I'll craft a role for you. What do you want to do? And we started talking. And as we started talking through what that was going to look like and kind of what I was interested in, he said, I know what we're going to do. I'm going to have you come back and I'm going to make you my chief of staff. And I promptly said, what the hell does that mean? And he said, to be honest with you, I'm not sure, but we're going to figure this out together. And I said, okay, I'm in. And I went back, and I got this amazing opportunity to start to really drive the operations of a security organization. Where were we spending our money? What were our highest priority projects? What was his strategy, and how was I making sure that we were all executing against that? And it was fantastic, and I was happy. And I started as a manager, and within a year was promoted to a senior manager, and then 6 months later I was promoted to a director. I get a call from a recruiter at Facebook one day. And she says, hey, I know we've talked to you before, and I know we never really felt we had the right role for you, but I really want you to come talk to our CISO, because I really think we are ready for you. And I said, well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm really happy where I am right now, but yes, I'll be glad to come talk to you. I remember one of my earliest mentors in my career gave me the best piece of advice ever, which was, make sure you're running to something and not running from something. So I went in to go meet with our CISO at Facebook, who's still my boss to this day. And I remember I could not find parking on campus the day I was going to meet with him. So I was 30 minutes late for a 30-minute discussion with him. And I remember he walked in, and I'm incredibly apologetic, thinking, well, at the very least, we're going to have a conversation, and I know this guy, and, you know, we'll have the connection going forward. And what was supposed to be a 30-minute conversation ended up in a 2.5-hour dialogue, and me at the end saying, yes, I'll come back and meet with more people on your team. Same situation. I can tell you right now, to this day, 3.5 years later, I still have never had a job description for what I do at Facebook. And he said to me, he said, I don't know what this is going to turn into, but I know I need you on my team. I started there, and there were 25 of us in the department. 25. And he got the same questions. And one of those questions that a lot of people asked was, well, what does she do? Is she an admin? Because no one knew. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what was amazing to me about going in there is the opportunity that existed. And finding a group of people that I felt were going to challenge me and help me continue to grow, and that I could also help them continue to grow. And it's amazing to me when I look back through all of this, all of the companies I've worked at, all of the people I've worked with, all of the people I've networked with. When I graduated from high school, the #1 rule I had for myself is I am never working in corporate America. I have never not worked in corporate America. And that's what's gotten me to where I am. And I'm thrilled because it's what brings me here to talk to you today about a subject I'm passionate about, and I hope all of you are too. We in security have a spotlight on all we do now more than ever. This industry changes incredibly quickly. Our threat landscape is evolving at a record pace. Whether it's vulnerabilities, whether it's surveillance concerns, whether it's advanced persistent threat, whether sometimes it's just good people making mistakes, or whether it's breaches. I mean, I can think of 2 huge breaches in the past 4 days that have come out. And in some ways, people have almost become desensitized to this because we hear about them so frequently now. And that's challenging. It's challenging for all of us because we need to figure out we have to be reactive and then we have to be proactive. We have to try to stay one step ahead of all of this going on, but then recognize sometimes it's okay if we're not. And we have to respond in the best way we can. We have to balance and manage risk. Where do we spend our money? Where do we put our time? Where do we put our people? And through it all as an industry, we can't just focus on our own individual services and products. We need to focus on the entire internet ecosystem and how we make that safer and more secure. I truly believe that security of the internet is paramount to keeping it strong. Trust in the internet is more important today than it ever has been. But I'm going to also bet that there's a lot of people who don't have trust in it, especially right now when you look at everything that has come out in the past few days. But think about what the internet does. It helps us connect. It spreads opportunity. It enables us to learn. And you guys are a great example of that here. It gives us a voice. Together, it makes us all stronger and safer. And that's why we at Facebook spend a lot of our energy making services and products to help make the entire internet safer and more secure. But we do have challenges in that space. Nothing is more important to us than the safety of the people who use Facebook and the security of their data. All of online security has room to improve. But many of the challenges Facebook face is no different than what every other company faces. Our problem is scale. How do you build this out for a product that touches over 1.3 billion people? How do you build this out for an employee base that is growing as a rapid pace? How do we scale? And for us, how do we scale with minimal friction? How are we not seen as the team that always just says no and walks away? How do we collaborate? How do we work with people? How do we provide products and services that are meaningful and impactful? How do we help people protect the people who use our site and their data? Because it's the #1 issue we face, and it drives what we do and how we think about things on a daily basis. I could spend an entire talk talking to you about any of these 3 things. But I wanted to highlight for you really quickly some of the programs we have in place to help us solve some of these issues. Facebook is an incredibly fast-paced environment. Everyone tells you that when you interview and they talk about drinking from the fire hose. I can tell you that what they don't tell you is you're trying to drink from the fire hose as it's spraying you directly in the face. That's the pace we move at. We need technologies that allow us to maintain that pace. And that's incredibly challenging to find. Be bold, be open, be more connected. That's what we preach. Those are our values. That's what we embody as a company. But how do we balance that with what we're trying to do, protecting people and protecting their data? One of the biggest issues we saw and we knew we needed to address is how do we allow our engineers to securely authenticate to production networks and servers from their development environments and from our corporate network? We needed something that provided extremely quick and easy authentication. So this little thing that is smaller than a quarter, you can see it right up here. This is called a YubiKey. This sits on the side of the computer. I can actually show you. I have mine in here right now. You can probably not even see it. And all this allows is that when somebody is moving from the corporate network to our production network, all they need to do is simply tap this on the side, and a code is generated, and it's a unique 32-digit code, and they're authenticated. The amount of friction with this is about as small as you can get. And we still faced an uphill battle rolling this out. And I don't want this on the side of my computer. It gets in my way. We actually have a Facebook group that started internally called YubiKey Says What, because people inadvertently type it, so hit it so many times. But what's awesome to me to see is how quickly we rolled this out, but also how the company has embraced it. This small piece of technology that so many people were questioning, now so many people love and talk about it because it allows them flexibility. But it also allows them to understand the heart of what we're doing is protecting people and protecting their data. How many of you have heard about our bug bounty program? Anyone? Excellent. We've got one. That's fantastic. Bug bounty programs are a great way to crowdsource security, because we can't do it all ourselves. We can try, but we need help. So 3 years ago, we launched a program whereby we will pay security researchers to report issues to us as long as they disclose it responsibly and they don't go public with the issues until we've confirmed with them and there's a fix. And then what do? Well, we line people's pockets with cash to thank them for it. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about vulnerabilities and bugs being sold on the black market. Well, this is the opposite side of this. Because since we launched this program 3 years ago, we have paid out over $3 million to security researchers. $3 million. We are in almost 90 countries. We have people participating in this program. That's huge. We have one researcher who has made over $150,000. We have another one who just received $35,000 for a vulnerability that he found. And you know what else? We hire a handful of the best people who come through this program. Because that's what we look for. And the last thing, and Larry mentioned this briefly in my bio, Hacktober. What is Hacktober? Well, Hacktober is the month of October that combines with National CyberSecurity Awareness Month, and it's a way we took it and did it in a Facebook way. Anybody who's in security knows that one of the hardest issues we deal with is retention of information and getting people to care. Because you know what? A lot of times people don't care until there's an issue. They take the security for granted, they don't even think about it, or they see it as a hindrance until there's a problem. Hacktober is our way to go back to our employees, our contractors, anyone who works at Facebook. And we simulate a month of games. We try and hack them, and we encourage them to try and hack us back. And we do this because we find a way to get people thinking about security and talking about security is to simulate real-world issues they could face and show them how this can become reality, and then teach them how to respond and what they can be doing differently in certain situations. And it's become iconic. This started as a brainstorm in 2011 when a few of us were sitting in a room and we said, "Oh, we should probably do something for National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. What should we do? And how do we roll something out in a company like Facebook?" We have people who start asking us the minute Hacktober is over that they can't wait for the next year, and how do they get involved and how do they participate. We see 75% increases in the number of people who participate in our internal discussion groups when we run these programs. And the great thing is, it's people across the company. It's people in finance, it's people in legal, it's people in product, it's people in engineering. And all of these worlds and all of these issues come to light, and we can all talk about them. And what we do is create a culture where people are comfortable asking questions and comfortable interacting with the security team. Our work doesn't just stop with internal technical solutions. We provide extensive controls, resources, and tools to everyone who uses Facebook to help better protect accounts. So how many people in here have a Facebook account? That's pretty incredible when you look around, right? And this is just one small group. And you think about that and you keep growing it and growing it. And 1.3 billion people. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the security features we have, because I can tell you we can do better about getting the word out about how these help you and help protect your account. How many people have login notifications or login approvals turned on? Okay. So if you noticed all the hands that went up for who has a Facebook account, and then who has this turned on, this is a second factor of authentication, the login approvals. There is nothing else you remember from what I talked to you about today. Please turn on login approvals for Facebook. This is such a small step you can take that allows you to verify it's you logging into your account. I wish it wasn't necessary that we had to do that. But not everyone who thinks of the security space thinks of the good people in it. Because there are bad people out there. All that happens with login approvals, if you are logging in from a device that is not known, you will be sent a code to your cell phone, and you just plug it in, and then you can confirm that it's a known device, and it's you, and you're on. It's simple. It's easy. But it's a great way to make sure and ensure that you are logging into your own account. One-time password. This is especially important at universities and people who are accessing Facebook on public computers. If you are ever concerned to say, wow, sometimes I just forget to log out of my account, there's a creeper standing over my shoulder and I'm not sure what this person is looking at, this is your opportunity to ask for a one-time password to be able to log into your Facebook account so that you don't have to use your regular password. And if I can give just another general security plug, please make sure you use different passwords across different sites. Please, 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 please. It's incredibly important. And we see that a lot, especially with some of the latest breaches where some of this information is starting to come out for how these sometimes happen. Trusted contacts. Trusted contacts is a way that you can put together a list of people that you say you trust. And if you ever have problems getting into your account, one of those people can vouch for you and help you get in. AV Marketplace. We offer a marketplace where any individual user can go in and download from a variety of AV solutions to use and trial for 6 months. If you're ever concerned about something that you see on your computer, you don't have antivirus on your computer, check out the AV Marketplace. It is a great place to go, and it's a great resource that's out there for everybody. If there's one general best practice I can tell you that is so important, whether you're on Facebook or anywhere else, use a second factor of authentication anywhere and everywhere you can. Gmail offers it, Yahoo offers it, LinkedIn offers it. It is very difficult for me to think of places now that don't offer it. Make sure you turn it on. These are things we can all do together, collectively. Whether we're on the Facebook side and helping develop the products and the services to protect you, or whether it's you using Facebook and using the internet to keep yourself safe. Because when we talk about changing the game, and we talk about what that means, it's about how we all interconnect in this space and in this area. And that brings me to what I want to talk about next. Empathy. Empathy is something that most people probably don't think about when they think of security. Empathy is our ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Security is becoming less focused on technology and more about people. Each and every one of us, people. We want to understand people's behaviors. We want to protect people as they're trying to do their work and live their lives and be whoever it is they want to be. To do that and to change the image and change the game of what security is, we need to humanize what we do and why we do it, and think about what is driving us to make the decisions we do. We have an image problem. It's a brand problem. When you ask people what they think of as a security professional or a security engineer, they think of anonymous, they think of the masked figure, they think of the person sitting in their parents' basement hacking away on a computer. I mean, I've been asked before if I carry a taser at work. There's not an understanding of what this field is. But I can also tell you this. I guarantee you that 9 times out of 10, if you ask somebody who's in security or who's a security engineer, they're in their head going to picture a man. And most likely they're going to picture a white man. The images we have of females in this space right now are defined by what we see in pop culture and what we see on TV. And my 2 favorite examples of that are NCIS and Criminal Minds, where you have the quirky female character who's locked off in a room away from the rest of the team, who's doing their security work. And the only time she interacts with anybody else is when either she initiates it or they need something from her. It's a background character. And not to mention the fact that half the time it is completely unrealistic. We laugh at work all the time about a scene in NCIS where they're complaining about being hacked and 2 of them are pounding away on a keyboard. We have a brand problem. This is what people think, but let me actually show you what goes on in the actual space. Because let's talk about diversity. 17% of tech jobs right now are filled by women. We're even worse in the information security space. We're only about 10 to 11%. Only 13% of female teens say a STEM-related career would be their first choice. Look at me. I loved math. I loved science. That wasn't my major. I said I wasn't going to go into corporate America. Definitely wasn't my first choice. African Americans only make up 7% of the security labor force, and Latinos make up 5%. And this is disheartening to see, because this is not reflective of what our greater population and our society makeup is. How can we have empathy? How can we relate to other people if the people doing this work isn't reflective of who we're working for? Diverse groups of people solve complex problems better and faster. That's proven research. It's also proven that we know adding women and minorities increases the collective intelligence, the creativity, and the problem solving. And it drives impact and communication in different ways. It's empathy. It's relating and sharing to the feelings of someone else. And we need to do better. The expertise that is needed to get information security back on track and to change the game require skills that aren't prevalent and many times aren't considered crucial by hiring managers. Now, that's not to say all hiring managers feel this way. But one of the most interesting things about this chart to me is this one stat right here. And what this shows us is women believe successful information security professionals should have a variety of skills, communication skills, an understanding of the breadth of the field, technical skills, policy formulation and application, leadership skills, business management skills. Men believe technical skills need to be the priority. Now, that is not to discount the importance of technical skills, because they are incredibly important. But there are other skills that need to go along with that. And we can all play a role in bringing our best self and our best skill set to help bridge this gap. We have to acknowledge and embrace the fact that there is a breadth and depth of skills that can coexist in this space. We have to acknowledge that a diverse group of employees can help us change the game and can help us better leverage each other's strengths and better empathize with people. I want to show you a quick video because I'm going to just show this to you first, and then I'm going to give you a little backstory on this. Who's heard of CTF competitions before? Capture the flag. Excellent. So this is probably not what you're thinking in your head, and that's why I show the video first, so it automatically erases that from your mind before I say capture the flag. Because I said this one time to some of my friends, and I was laughing because she literally thought I was going to be out in a field trying to capture a flag and was very confused as to why this had anything to do with my job. These are online games. And what they're meant to do is test people's prevention, detection, defense, and offensive skills in the security space. And you get points for capturing the flag in whatever the game is. And the one we've developed, it's capturing countries. And then you hold on to those countries and you maintain points for putting up defense systems to keep them in your possession and blocking other people from taking them over. We do a lot of these. We do a lot of these at universities. We do a lot of these at schools. And in fact, I would be more than happy to get you in touch with somebody who could help do one here if you're interested. Because the awesome thing about these are we can make levels from incredibly early stages to get people excited and see the game side of things to incredibly advanced from some of the most technically intelligent people I have ever worked with. The games have various levels of difficulty, and we try and go through 4 different categories: reverse engineering, web applications, system administration, networking. We went down to Alabama and ran one of these. We had 34 total people, and there were 8 teams, including a team of all high school students. And for the first time ever in any of the CTF competitions I have ever been to, a team of all females. And what's amazing to me when I look at this video is I see diversity. Because the first time I ever went to a CTF competition and I asked one of my coworkers and colleagues, because we were there for a recruiting event, and said, hey, are there any females here to talk to? And he actually laughed at me. And he said, yeah, you haven't been to a lot of these. There's not a lot of women at these things. We had a team of all females. But here was the amazing thing about this. As we were going through the competition, and this was a 4-hour-long event, we saw that there was one team that was heads and tails above everybody else. And the other 7 teams were all kind of like bouncing around in this big mix. No one was separating each other. Now, we pay awards for this. Third place wins $500, second place is $1,000, and first place is $2,000. So you can imagine for college students or high school students, that's a pretty nice chunk of change to get. And we were worried we weren't going to end up with anybody in second or third place, or that it was going to be this huge group of people. So we decided to change the game. We offered up a teaching option. And what we told all of the teams is, for the last hour of the competition, they could offer up their services and help one of their fellow teams with the agreement that when they captured a flag, they split the points 50-50. One team took us up on that option. Guess which team it was? It was the all-female team. And guess which team ended up in second place? The all-female team. These events are about collaboration. They're about learning. They're about leadership skills. And recognizing that sometimes leadership skills is the ability to recognize when you need to collaborate. And you don't have all the answers yourself, and you can work with other people. And the other thing I want to highlight from this, that not to overlook in all of this, the team that actually won first place, 2 African American students, a Hispanic student, and a Caucasian student. It was all males, but still, that is progress in my mind. Because I can tell you right now, that is not what we normally see. But teaching, collaboration, that's what jumped them. The female team was in 6th place when we started this, and they ended up in 2nd. It's awesome. One of the students from that team, we actually gave her a scholarship to attend a hacking conference in Amsterdam, because we were so impressed with the leadership skills she showed and said, hey, you have a lot of potential in this area. We want to give you some more technical exposure and some more technical background, because we think that's going to help you get this package together. She was with us in Amsterdam not long ago. We had to get her a visa in 2 days so she could travel. We need to start dispelling the myth that security is a homogeneous group of individuals, that we are behind a wall, that we don't let anyone in. We're guarded. Oh, don't talk to security. They're going to say no. Let's work around security. This is from a study that ISC Square did, and it's the 6 myths as to why people don't go into the security space. Now, I call them myths because I live this space. I do this on a daily basis. And I'm calling them myths because I don't think they're all necessarily true. Now, some of these I think we have to continue to work on. There's no one else like me in the field. We had this discussion recently about Hacktober. And one of the things I talked about and I realized this year is, every year, and this is something so small, every year when we roll out our Hacktober swag and the icon for the year, which is always some form of a pumpkin, I just always assume it's a male pumpkin. Why don't we ever have a girl pumpkin? The imagery of what we see and what is around us makes us think that this is a field that is male-dominated. And it is male-dominated. But there are women in this field. There are minorities in this field. We all make up this field. Stereotypes, culture, lack of encouragement. There are a lot of stereotypes. There's stereotypes in every industry. There's stereotypes in everything. Culture. This gets back to what I talked about. Walled off, closed, not collaborative. Lack of encouragement. When I went to school, there were no security programs that were available to me. I think it is amazing we have a high school forensics class on here. There is encouragement everywhere. We need to find those students who are showing an interest. We need to encourage them. We need to support them. We need to offer them the tools to be successful. This one is alarming to me. It's that women especially tend to say they don't think they would be good at it. And I haven't quite wrapped my arms around why. Other than I think it ties back to there's no one else like me in the field. And I think that fear of being alone. And why is no one else in this field? Well, maybe no one else is in this field because we're not meant to be in this space. This one is interesting to me. Security is not a glamorous job, and it's not interesting. Okay, so the first thing I tell anyone who says that is, you show me a job that is glamorous once you're doing it. Because I can guarantee you, even the people that you think have glamorous jobs, if you talk to them, they find a lot of stuff that's not glamorous about what they're doing. But not interesting. The problems, the issues that we get to deal with and talk through, the people that we get to protect, how is that not interesting? That is the farthest thing from the truth in my mind. And I guess, yeah, depending on how you define glamour, okay. But I would argue with anyone that said this is not an interesting field. We change on a daily basis. Unattractive field that is more based on isolated work rather than collaborative work. This is the imagery we see. This is what people think. What do they think of security? They think of security as the people who say no. We have to provide context. We have to work with people. We have to collaborate and build those relationships. One of my favorite things about this space is not only how we collaborate within our own company and with our own teams, but with other companies and other professionals in the security space. We talk about Facebook allowing me the time to come out here. Not only is this an important topic and something that I am incredibly passionate about, and our entire department is incredibly passionate about, and our entire company is incredibly passionate about, but the networking that comes from this, the people we're able to meet, those who we can share information with, those who we can work with on problems in the future. This is not an isolated field. And the last one, it's a risk-based discipline, so it's not as creative. I'm going to argue that you can find creativity in anything you do if you put your mind to it. And with the breadth of areas that you can focus on in the security space, there is a lot of room to be creative. And creativity is going to help drive innovation and vision. There's a lot of creativity. How do we roll out security at scale? How do we do that in as frictionless a way as possible? That's creativity. My boss actually always gets mad at me because I always say that I'm not creative. And somebody pointed out to me yesterday, they said, I don't know how you can say that. Look at when you talk about what your career path has been. And it's forced me to start to look at it differently because, yes, I can't paint. God knows I cannot sing. But there is creativity in what I do. Some days more so than others, but there's a lot of room for creativity in this space. And don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise. A few months ago, Bill Gates gave the commencement address at Stanford. And I'm going to read to you one of the pieces he said that really, really spoke to me. It's really short. If we have optimism without empathy, it doesn't matter how much we master the secrets of science. We are not really solving problems. We are just working on puzzles. Ah, I love that. I love it. We need to solve problems in context. We need to help people versus just doing things because we can. Empathy is what drives the problems we all solve and helps us determine how we apply those results. We have to think beyond ourselves, our own personal gains, and look at the world as a whole and how to make that a better place. To drive a vision and innovation, to be broad-reaching, impactful. That's what we need to do. And that's what empathy is in this field. How do we do that? We have to build a pipeline of people who care. We have to develop a technologically skilled, cyber-savvy workforce that understands the blend of skills required to be successful in this field. I love speaking at universities or colleges about this, because you are living this on a day-to-day basis by what you're teaching and what you're exposing students to. For those who are here from industry, by being mentors, by giving them the opportunity to have internships. We have to provide the exposure and we have to provide the hands-on experiences to allow them to hone their craft and practice and grow a love of this space and figure out what it means to them. And we do that all together. Because at the end of the day, we aren't there yet. Larry was talking about now the unemployment rate, or the job, how many open jobs we have right now. So here's another startling fact in my mind. U.S. Department of Labor predicts IT security is going to be one of the fastest growing sectors in the U.S. economy, and that we're going to add nearly 1.4 million jobs by 2020. But you know what's even more alarming? 2.3 of these jobs could go unfilled because we don't have a sufficient pool of candidates. We already know we don't have a sufficient pool. How are we going to continue to scale? How are we going to build this out? Many of you are just as intimately familiar as I am with the gap we have in this space. We need to be intentional. We need to acknowledge this. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about the fact that maybe the way we've approached this in the past isn't working. So how do we change this to start to talk about people? because each and every one of you plays a role in that. I'm going to throw this next slide up there because it's something I am always asked. People say, well, what do you look for when you're looking for someone on the security side? And especially on our security engineering side. There's an enthusiasm. We want an enthusiasm and a desire to ensure security and privacy on the internet. Now, I can tell you right now that my personality and my level of enthusiasm does not mimic the rest of our entire department. But that doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we all have one common mission. And that's we want to ensure the security and privacy of the internet and the people who use Facebook. We want to see people have a knowledge of Linux, a knowledge of Windows, and a knowledge of Mac. Expertise with an interpreted programming language. This is one that can be very dependent on what side of the field you're going in. But if anybody's thinking about what language should I learn to program, PHP, Python, Java, focus on those. I want to see people who have had a background and they've touched servers and networks and done some work in application security disciplines. Great way to get exposure there. Participate in bug bounty programs. There are over 86 companies that have bug bounty programs. And I guarantee you, each and every one of you has probably found a bug at some point in time in something you've been doing on the internet and just haven't realized it. Play around with it, report it. I can tell you right now, we have a group of people who respond to this. It's not automated in any way. These are real human beings sitting there actually looking at this. Participate in these programs. Roll up your sleeves. Get your hands dirty. And what do we look for? Is a passion. We want to see people who have a passion about making the world more open and connected and making the world more secure. That's what we're looking for. Now, that's what I can throw up as a bulleted list. And then I ask you all to just kind of avoid all of that and look at me. Because I'm the other side of what people look for in the security space. And what's important to realize is there's no one size fits all. If you have a passion and an enthusiasm, and you're willing to learn, hone those skills and consider this as a career choice. We need to remember protection is the core of what we do. Whether it's protecting employees, whether it's protecting people, protecting students, and in some circumstances, even protecting lives. Protection is at the core of what we do. We are all about keeping people safe, and we have to expand our pipelines on those ideals. Empathy drives innovation. And it drives innovation by allowing us to solve problems in context and at scale. There is a pressing need for more security professionals. And I am confident, with the support of each and every one of you, and a call to action to take this message and talk to people about how we change the game. What does that mean to them? Getting them interested in this space. We can change the game. We will build that pipeline. And I am thrilled to see the work that is going on right here at BayPath to help address that. Thank you very much.
Incredible.
Excellent.
Larry's going to join us for questions and answers. That'd be great.
Excellent, thank you. All right.
Jen, thank you so much. And is there any doubt in anybody's mind about why Jen is the Director of Security Operations for Facebook? One more time, please, one more. Every time we talk about our cybersecurity programs and we bring in speakers, I'm mindful of a lot of the research that was done in the 60s and 70s about the human side of enterprise with McGregor and Rensis Lickert and others that really were on the breakthrough. They were on the front end of helping us to understand that no matter how smart we are, no matter how much technology we have at our disposal, no matter how much cash we have available to promote the efforts that we're trying to develop, it all comes down to people. And we have to make things happen with and through people. And we need to be collaborative. And a related topic, not exactly related to cybersecurity, but related to technology. We just finished a study with the Massachusetts Life Sciences organizations. We had 60 participants in a study. And when they came back, they talked about technical skills that they're looking for, but they talked about collaboration and team problem solving as two of the three top concerns that they have in that field. Didn't we just hear about that just now? I'm also mindful of back in the 80s when the United States was not doing as well in manufacturing as we are today. There was so much manufacturing is coming back to the United States. And we just weren't looking at things systematically. And we weren't looking at the fact that through Six Sigma type of processes that the Japanese were already using, that we could bring our performance to a level of standard that was second to none in the world. We need to bring those same kinds of thoughts, those same types of approaches that are so inclusive of people to the process of cybersecurity. And we heard so much about that today. It's the underlying theme that we heard, and it's the essence of our master's program in cybersecurity management. It's all about managing change with and through people, taking advantage of available technology we already have to address the many types of stakeholders that we have to work with in all of the organizations that we're involved in, regardless of the type of organization. I'm about to open it up to questions, but I wanted to say to those of you who are cyber professionals in the area, could you raise your hand for a second? Okay. There are about 60 of you in the audience today, and I'd like to invite you after this is over. We're going to take about 15 minutes. You probably haven't met each other before, and we thought it might be nice for you to just say hello to other people that are in the field. So there's a little room in the back on the left, and if you'd like to stop by and say hello, and I'll ask Jen to come by and say hello to you as well after the conference is over. But I'd like to open up now to questions from the audience and also from our 90 people who are online streaming with us today. So any questions do we have from the field? I think we have some microphones. We have one mic here. Do we have a mic on this side as well? Well, we'll get one to you. I have a question right here.
No? Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
So one of the things I've noticed in hiring over the past 20 years is that the amount of external validation recent high school or college graduates needs is much higher than it was 10 or 20 years ago. Standardized testing, helicopter parents, there's all these kind of reasons for it. And as you put up your slides of the myths of security, I was noticing that there are certain professions, like these people here behind the soundboard, the only reason you actually know they're there is because the mic didn't come on for a microsecond. And if they do your job perfectly, you never notice they're there, you never say thank you. And security strikes me as a similar field, and I'm curious to know, do you feel that's a personality type? Like in many ways, is that limiting who's coming into the field? Is the current education system? Like, what do we do differently to improve the security but also get the right people in there and that sort of thing?
It's actually a really good question, and this is something especially even on my side and my team deals with. I have someone from my team who's here with me right now, and I saw him chuckling as you were asking that question because it's one of the things we often deal with, and we say the same thing. No one knows we're here unless something goes wrong. Because when you're on the operations side, that's really what it comes down to. If you're doing your job effectively, no one knows you're there. And to me, the thing that I think is important is, I think there's a few different aspects that come into it. I think one, it's all of us getting more comfortable talking about the impact we make and how that ties into the bigger picture. The other thing that I talk to a lot about students who are interviewing you are just as much interviewing the company you're going to work for as they're interviewing you. I work for a boss who makes sure he makes an effort to call out those teams that seem to be in the background. And we work in a company where the security is at the forefront of what we do. So while, yes, there's always those times that come in and you think, my God, no one has, I mean, Hacktober is a prime example of that. No one recognizes the fact that there were 10 of us who were just carrying 800 pumpkins across the campus so people could carve them. But to have people who recognize that and will call that out and celebrate that and spend the time to bring those people on board, that to me is a testament of the space and where it's growing and what it's doing. And I think as you start to see new leadership coming into the space as well, you're going to see people a lot more vocal in talking about that and not just being that face behind the wall.
Excellent. Thank you. Question over here. We'd like you to use microphones so people can hear it from the
Ms. Hanley, that was great. I have a question on global security. Cybersecurity is a global challenge and issue. How do you interact with it globally?
It's a really interesting question. We as a team and we as a company are obviously scaling at a global level. So for us, it's very important as we scale and as we grow to make sure we have people in various geographic locations and placed globally throughout the world. You can't run everything from a US-centric perspective when you are a global industry or a global company. So to us, it's just as important that as we continue to scale our employee base and grow that, that we're placing people in other geographic locations and not just growing in the US.
Do we have any questions online yet? Well, none yet? Okay. Those of you online, by all means, chime in. We'd love to hear from you. We have more questions out here. Yes.
I have a question. Do you see this industry is going into the smaller corporation? Like, I can see Facebook, Amazon, we have that type of security team, but all the corporation I work for, we don't really have that because we're a private company and not as big. Most of, I see the admin, server admin doing that type of job. Do you see those, this type of industry growing into the smaller sector of the industry?
Do you want to touch that?
One of the areas that we focus on, and you're absolutely right in the observation, is that small and medium-sized businesses just don't have the resources right now. And I think one of the things that we need to, and corporate America needs to really look at, is the small business leads to vulnerability to their business because they're probably partnering in some way. So some of the things that we're working on is obviously providing some support for small and medium-sized businesses and recruiting people to go work for them. But also we need to really foster that collaboration between corporate America and small and medium-sized businesses. As a retail industry has done this for years in the loss prevention field, where major corporations will help smaller businesses survive the theft and the pilfering. There's no reason it can't work in this scope, but we have to get into this information sharing business, which the industry is still not receptive to. We like to keep our problems a little bit tighter than it's not as open.
Next question. Yep. Ed? Good.
You mentioned non-compliance on the parts of users as a problem. I'm wondering if you could name like maybe 2 or 3 other specific user behavior problems that are relevant to maintaining good security.
I think the #1 thing is the question that came up. Good security oftentimes is in the background, and you don't think about it until there's an issue. There are these tools that exist, and I talked through some of them earlier, that are out there that people can use. And oftentimes they don't. Because in this very fast-paced society we live in, the thought of, I want to log on from a new phone and I can't do it right now, I have to wait an extra 5 seconds, can be problematic. So I think that is one thing. Now, I will also say that we play a role in that as well, because we can do a lot more to get those tools in front of people and get them to understand how they work and how they protect them. The other piece that comes into this as well is just educating yourself. Educating yourself on who has access to your information, the information you're putting out there, and making sure that it's set up in the way that you want to share what you're sharing. So the education piece is the other key area.
Thank you. I have a question.
So I have a question about is it okay? Now it's working. I have a question about, like, in your experience, what is the most interesting background you've seen anyone like have or contribute to the cyber security, I guess, line of work? Like, what is the most interesting background in academics that they've come from? Because I know that probably contributes to the creativity from having, you know, many people come from different kind of backgrounds. But what is the most interesting that you met, or interesting person had a background like yours?
Julian, stand up for a second. Everybody, this is Julian. He works on my team, and he's actually a full-time student at Cal. I interviewed Julian last summer for a coordinator position. We were calling it a coordinator position on our team because we just knew we needed help. There was a lot of stuff we had to do and we needed help. And somebody had recommended him and said, hey, I have this guy you need to talk to. I think he would really be great. So I vividly remember this. I was driving to a San Francisco Giants game, and I was on the phone interviewing Julian. And I got off the phone and I called our recruiter and I said, we absolutely need to hire this person. We absolutely, absolutely need to hire this person. Julian started out with us as a contractor and is now a full-time employee. So he's a full-time student and he's full-time working with us. I'm going to totally put you on the spot right now, but I want you to tell a little bit about your background, because to me this also shows the breadth that comes into this space and also how you can develop experience in this space.
Hi guys, I'm Julian. I'm a strategic project manager at Facebook, and like Jen said, I've been there for about 1.5 years. Like Jen, life has a weird way of taking you in the path it does, right? I started off interested in politics. When I was in high school, I started a nonprofit to open called a youth urban lounge. So in exchange for high school credit, students would teach at this lounge, tutoring, we would do art shows, more urban version of a boys and girls club, if you will. And I worked for a mayor for a while. After high school, I decided that the last thing I ever wanted to do was go to college. I thought I had gained much more from working than I had from going to school. And so I took a year off and I moved to DC, and I worked for the mayor out there for a while. And then that rolled into another thing. After about a year, I realized that if I didn't go back to school then, I never would. So I got myself into gear and decided I wanted to go to a fun place. So I moved to Santa Barbara. And I was there for about 2 years, and it was fine, but I was starting to reminisce on how much I didn't like school and how much I'd rather be doing something I enjoyed. And I got a call from a Facebook recruiter. And fast forward a month, I'd moved to San Francisco and enrolled in night classes at Berkeley and started working here. I think one of the really interesting things about Facebook is that it gives you the autonomy to work on the projects you want to work on. And I'm fortunate enough to have a manager I do in Jen to allow me to do that and really drive projects that you want to work on. Drive projects you want to drive, and find your niche, right? And that's something that I've definitely found in Facebook. I'm in no way technical. Half the things that are said at, in the daily office environment go straight over my head. But like I said, you find a niche, and for me, it's been projects, project managing things that have high impact and things that are just fun things to work on. So, like Jen, odd path has gotten me to Facebook, and I wouldn't have chosen it any other way.
We have an online question.
I actually, just one more thing I want to add to that. I think that's so interesting when you look at our security team right now. Our CISO, our Chief Security Officer, was a political science undergrad and has his law degree. We have high school dropouts, we have college dropouts, we have masters, we have PhDs. We run the gamut. And it's one of the greatest things about this field because it does attract such a wide and diverse background.
It's terrific. And it sounds like you're a real team, too.
Yes.
You pull everybody together, which is terrific. Yes.
Okay, so this question is from Bob Milton, our last year's speaker, and he asks you, what is Facebook doing to manage the risk of extremists such as IS and Al-Shabaab from using social media to glorify their often violent action and recruit new followers?
I can't speak on the specifics of this because this is outside of my area of expertise, but I can tell you that we have groups dedicated to this, that live and breathe by this, to make sure that Facebook is a platform for good and not a platform used to exploit, and not a platform that's used to voice terroristic and extremist actions. And I think if you look to the Arab Spring and the goodness that came out of that and what was organized on Facebook and the good that came from that, that's a really good example of what we do and how the platform can be used for good.
One more question here. Yes.
Just a question. I work with a company that deals with people with disabilities, and was wondering what type of problems that you might have dealing with things like video phones and that kind of thing that require different types of technologies.
So this is something I actually do not know a ton about. However, I can tell you I saw something just the other day about an empathy lab that's being run to actually start to better understand the user experience for people with disabilities and how we as a platform can better support them with the issues they face. So while I don't have the specifics on that, I do know it is something that the company is really starting to take a closer look at, and there are people who are dedicated to looking at that and actually getting direct feedback from the people using the platform.
Thank you. And I'm going to invite our president to come back to the platform and summarize for us.
Well, how do you put into a few words all of the concepts, the energy, the enthusiasm that we heard from Jen? I guess for me personally, what Jen represents is the new face of security and cybersecurity management in our country. I am so glad that she was bold, she was brave, and she certainly has the Bay Path characteristic of talking about a topic that we are all very concerned about, cybersecurity, but she put it into human terms. And I think for me as an educator, I am so encouraged about her concept of diversity in this field. Because in all of our organizations, I do believe what you said, Jen. Different perspectives, different races, ethnicity, gender. If we have all of that working together to solve a problem, then we certainly will succeed in all areas, and most importantly, in what you're certainly passionate about, cybersecurity. We can't thank you enough We thank Larry for bringing you here today, all of our guests and our supporters. Thank you for your wonderful comments about working for Jen, because you certainly validated she's the right type of manager who understands diversity. So we thank you for being with us, and we hope that, let's see, we have your gift right here, that you will take this with you. Come on over. And can we have a round of applause for our wonderful keynote speaker today, Jen Lesser Henley.